The world's most haunted places. Would you spend the night in a haunted location? I mean, really spend the night alone in the dark? It's a question that sends chills down your spine because, let's face it, there's a part of us deep down that can't help but acknowledge the possibility of the unknown. I've stared into the abyss. I've confronted the darkness, and I'm here to tell you there are places in this world where the veil between the living and the dead is thin, too thin. Tonight, we're diving deep into the heart of darkness, exploring the stories, the evidence, and the chilling energy that permeates the most haunted places on Earth. These aren't just spooky stories or campfire tales. These are locations where the residual energy of tragedy, pain, and suffering lingers, leaving an indelible mark on the very fabric of existence. Are you ready to confront the unknown? The Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado. Majestic, imposing, and undeniably haunted. This grand dame of the Rockies, with its sweeping views and opulent architecture, served as the inspiration for Stephen King's iconic horror novel, The Shining. But the real-life horrors that permeate these halls are more chilling than any fiction. Guests have reported disembodied voices echoing through the empty corridors, the phantom sounds of children laughing in the dead of night, and an unsettling feeling of being watched constantly. Room 217, the most notorious room in the hotel, is where it all began for Stephen King. It was there he experienced a vivid nightmare that would become the seed for his chilling tale. I've investigated this room. I've felt the oppressive weight of unseen eyes, the inexplicable temperature fluctuations, and heard the whispers that dance on the edge of perception. Trust me, this is not a place you want to be after dark. The energy here is palpable. It's as if the walls themselves are trying to tell a story of tragedy, despair, and the restless spirits that refuse to let go. Even the most skeptical minds have been known to crack under the pressure of the Stanley's haunting atmosphere. The stories of shadow figures darting in the periphery, of unseen hands tugging at bed sheets, and the chilling feeling of being touched by something not of this world are enough to make even the bravest souls question their sanity. But it's not just the guests who experience these phenomena. Employees have reported encounters with apparitions, objects moving mysteriously on their own, and even full-bodied apparitions appearing in broad daylight. The energy here is so intense, so overwhelming, that it's impossible to deny that something truly sinister lurks within the walls of the Stanley Hotel. We journey now to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to the imposing and chilling Eastern State Penitentiary. This former prison, once home to some of America's most notorious criminals, is now a decaying monument to despair and a breeding ground for paranormal activity so intense it's enough to make your blood run cold. Imagine, if you will, the agonizing silence of solitary confinement, the deafening clang of iron bars, and the anguished cries of the forgotten souls who were once held within these walls. That energy, that raw primal emotion, it doesn't just disappear, it lingers, it festers, and it manifests in ways that defy rational explanation. Visitors and investigators alike have reported encounters with shadowy figures lurking in the cell blocks, disembodied whispers echoing through the long-abandoned corridors, and even physical attacks by unseen forces. The air itself is thick with a palpable sense of dread, a feeling that you are being watched, judged, and perhaps even condemned by the unseen entities that call this place home. One of the most haunted areas within the prison is Cell Block 12. Here, in this desolate and oppressive wing, is where some of the most disturbing paranormal activity has been documented. Footsteps clear as day can be heard echoing down the empty corridors, only to lead to dead ends or locked cells. The temperature fluctuates wildly, sending chills down your spine one minute and leaving you drenched in a cold sweat the next. And the overwhelming feeling of despair, of hopelessness, it clings to you like a shroud, long after you've left the confines of the prison walls. But it's not just the physical sensations that are unsettling. EVP recordings captured within the walls of Eastern State Penitentiary have revealed chilling whispers, disembodied voices calling out names, and even full-blown conversations with what can only be described as the spirits of former inmates. These recordings are not for the faint of heart. They are raw, they are unfiltered, and they offer a glimpse into the dark underbelly of the paranormal world that few are brave enough to confront. Chapter 3. Prepare yourself as we set sail into the shadowy depths of maritime horror to the legendary, and some say cursed, Queen Mary permanently docked in Long Beach, California. This once glamorous ocean liner, now a floating museum and hotel, holds within its steel hull a treasure trove of paranormal activity that rivals even the most haunted of landlocked locations. Imagine the echoing laughter and joyous conversations of passengers from a bygone era, abruptly silenced by the deafening roar of a collision, the screams of the injured and dying echoing through the steel corridors. That energy, that stark contrast between celebration and tragedy, is forever etched into the very soul of the Queen Mary. Guests have reported encounters with the apparition of a sailor crushed to death by a watertight door, his anguished moans echoing through the engine room. Others have witnessed the spectral figure of a young girl, known as Sarah, who drowned in the ship's pool, her laughter turning to chilling screams in an instant. And then there's the first-class swimming pool, drained and empty now, but still said to be haunted by the spirits of those who met their untimely end in its depths. Unexplained ripples disturb the still surface of the water, and the temperature plummets without warning, as if an unseen presence has just taken a dip. But the most haunted area of the ship is said to be Stateroom B340. This unassuming cabin has been the site of so much paranormal activity, so many terrifying encounters, that the Queen Mary has actually sealed it off from the public. Guests who have stayed in nearby rooms have reported disembodied voices, objects moving on their own, and even the feeling of being physically touched by unseen hands. The Queen Mary is a floating paradox, a glamorous relic of a bygone era that also happens to be a hotbed of paranormal activity. It's a place where history and horror collide, where the echoes of the past are as real and as terrifying as the present. Chapter 4. Our next destination takes us deep into the heart of Louisiana, to a place steeped in history, tragedy, and unrelenting paranormal activity, the Myrtles Plantation. This antebellum mansion, with its moss-draped oaks and air of southern charm, hides a dark secret, a history soaked in blood and sorrow that continues to haunt its halls to this very day. Built on a Native American burial ground, the Myrtles Plantation has been witness to countless tragedies, from the deaths of former slaves to the murder of a former owner. These tragic events have left an indelible mark on the property, a stain of sorrow and despair that permeates every inch of its existence. Visitors and staff have reported encounters with the apparition of Chloe, a former slave who is said to have been hanged from a tree on the property. Her ghostly figure, clad in a green turban and a sorrowful expression, has been witnessed wandering the grounds, her mournful cries echoing through the night. But Chloe is not the only restless spirit that calls the Myrtles Plantation home. Guests have also reported seeing the ghost of a young girl, believed to be one of the children who died on the property, playing on the stairs or peering out from the windows. Her laughter, once a sound of joy, now sends chills down the spines of those who hear it. Perhaps the most chilling aspect of the Myrtles Plantation is the sheer number of mirrors that adorn its walls. These mirrors, reflecting the history and the horror of the plantation, are said to be portals to the other side, gateways through which the spirits of the dead can enter our world. Guests have reported seeing shadowy figures lurking in the reflections, faces staring back at them from the darkness. The Myrtles Plantation is not just a haunted house, it's a time capsule of tragedy, a place where the veil between the living and the dead is thin, and the spirits of the past are all too eager to make their presence known. Chapter 5. We arrive at our final destination, a place synonymous with horror, a name whispered in hushed tones, the Amityville House. This unassuming suburban home in Amityville, New York, became infamous in the 1970s when the Lutz family, who had moved in just weeks after a gruesome mass murder, fled in terror, claiming to have been driven out by a malevolent entity that haunted the home. Imagine, if you can, the residual energy of such unimaginable violence, the sheer terror that gripped those final moments, the anguish, the despair, the rage. It's almost as if the evil that unfolded within those walls seeped into the very foundation, staining the house with an indelible darkness. The Lutz family reported experiencing a litany of terrifying phenomena during their brief time in the home. Cold spots, despite it being the middle of summer, foul odors that seemed to materialize out of thin air, the disembodied voice of a man demanding they get out, and perhaps most chillingly, the appearance of red eyes peering at them from the darkness. One of the most disturbing accounts from the Lutz family involved their young daughter, Missy. She claimed to have befriended an unseen entity, a demonic presence that took the form of a pig. This entity, she said, encouraged her to do terrible things, to embrace the darkness that permeated the home. Though the Lutz family's story has been met with skepticism over the years, there's an undeniable energy that surrounds the Amityville house, a palpable sense of dread that clings to anyone who dares to approach. The home itself, despite attempts to change its appearance, remains instantly recognizable, a grim reminder of the horror that unfolded within its walls. The Amityville house is a stark reminder that some places are best left undisturbed, that some doors should remain forever closed. It's a chilling testament to the power of evil and the lingering effects it can have on our world. Tonight, we've journeyed into the heart of darkness, exploring places where the veil between the living and the dead is stretched thin, where the echoes of tragedy and despair linger like a suffocating fog. We've encountered restless spirits, malevolent entities, and residual energy that chills the very soul. These stories, these haunted locations, serve as a chilling reminder that there are forces at play in this world that we may never fully understand. While the allure of the unknown is strong, it's important to remember that some places are best left undisturbed, some mysteries best left unsolved. But the exploration doesn't end here. Tell me, have you ever experienced something you couldn't explain? A chilling encounter, a brush with the paranormal? Share your stories in the comments below, and perhaps your experience will be featured in a future episode. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more explorations into the darkest corners of the unknown. Until next time, stay curious, but stay vigilant.